This is Comic Support, where we introduce you to upcoming comics for new readers and comic book superfans. In this issue, we're going to talk about all things in the X-Men universe, specifically in response to the news that this September will mark the end of X-Men Gold and X-Men Blue, two mainstay comics for all readers in the last few years. Welcome to Comic Support. I'm Leon Scorpius, and in this issue, we're going to talk about all things X-Men comics. There's been so much big news in the comic universe regards to the X-Men, and in this issue, we're going to talk about all of the things that have been happening in the X-Men, including some jumping on points for new readers, and we're going to speculate on what's going to happen next now that X-Men Gold and X-Men Blue are going to be canceled. X-Men Gold and X-Men Blue for us as X-Men comics fans has been the mainstay. This has been the staple. We go to the comic book store and we know that we're going to get an issue of X-Men Gold, and the next week we're going to get an issue of X-Men Blue, and the week after that we're going to get an issue of X-Men Gold, and then the last week of the month we're going to get another issue of X-Men Blue, and it gives us a dose of X-Men every week. And as an X-Men reader, I wasn't fatigued by it at all. And this is someone who also picks up all of the in-between X-Men books. I've been picking up Cable religiously. I picked up the New Mutants limited series by Matthew Rosenberg. That's really good. So I get a lot of X-Men books. I could probably easily, especially right now with Hunt for Wolverine, pick up a dozen X-Men books a month. And people could say that's excessive. Which might be the reason why they're pulling back a little bit. I don't think so. I think what they've learned was after they tried to get rid of the X-Men during the whole X-Men versus Inhumans, that there's a lot more X-Men fans out there, and we're ready and willing to read these books. So for us, X-Men Gold and Blue were like the main staples, and these titles came out of Uncanny X-Men and All New X-Men from Brian Michael Bendis' run. And it really broke things up into two camps. It was X-Men Gold, which I equate to as like the traditional team. You had Kitty Pryde, Colossus, Nightcrawler, Old Man Logan played like the Wolverine role in that team, and Storm, right? These were the heavy hitters. They went out to space, they took on huge creatures, they took on big missions, as well as trying to run the school at the same time. But it was classic X-Men. They even started like their first issues playing a game of softball, which is, the classic X-Men thing to do. And they really tied for nostalgia. Mark Guggenheim did a really good job of hitting nostalgia, giving us X-Men that we wanted, giving us cool adventure stories. And that's kind of what that was about. It kind of went to its roots. It was like, hey, the Vance storyline and the Sentinel Nanobites storyline of like getting rid of mutants and everybody hates mutants. Sure, that's happened before, so maybe it was a little stale to some people, but I enjoyed it. What I really enjoyed about this team too is Mark Guggenheim was able to pair up with some really great artists and create some really cool books. Tony Silas's run, the few issues that he did with Mark Guggenheim was really notable. It also introduced what we consider the X-Men Gold B team, right? So you had Iceman and Rogue and Magic, Pyro, Armor, Ink, Magma. I think that was such a cool team coming out of the Iceman run by Cena Grace, and it was like, oh, we're gonna give Iceman a team, and here he comes in with a really cool team, and those comics were great. But now, X-Men Gold is going away. X-Men Blue, on the other hand, a very different series. This was more of the kid team, and it stayed consistent that way. You look, Cullen Bunn is an amazing writer. He did a great job of inheriting these time-displaced X-Men. It's the classic X-Men, right? Except they turned it on its head. Instead of being led by Cyclops, they said it's going to be led by Jean Grey. And young Jean Grey did a great job of wrangling this crazy team. Cyclops, Beast, Iceman, Angel. They wanted you to say, hey, remember that this was the X-Men. That's why Brian Michael Bendis brought them back in the first place, right? Not to mention you have the movies in the X-Men when you have all these young characters. We have Dark Phoenix coming up. It has Jean Grey. It has Cyclops in it. Not all the other characters, but obviously Beast is in it as well. They have to be somewhere in the comics for people to understand that, and so that's what this was. Cullen Bunn is also a big kind of horror nut, so he had a lot of great small horror things that he kind of fit in there. You have Cosmic Angel too. Back in the Black Vortex, Angel had these cosmic wings instead of his classic feather wings, so he had that to consider in there. You had Iceman, young Iceman who came out as gay, and then you had Beast, who has sorcerer powers in Cullen Bunn's run. So he's this crazy beast. He transforms and he has white fur instead of the traditional blue fur that everybody knows him as. They also this team needed a Wolverine, so he threw in Jimmy Hudson in there from the Ultimate Universe. You had a version of Storm, which was Bloodstorm, and because Cullen Bunn was also doing Venom at the time, he was hanging out with Venom for a long time. The X-Men Blue team was very event heavy. You had tie-ins, you had Secret Empire tie-in, you had Venomverse, you had Poisons and all the X stuff. So there was a lot that was going on to it, but overall it was a good book. And I think one of my favorite parts of the X-Men Blue team is Cullen Bunn brought back Polaris, and having the idea that instead of these young X-Men reporting to Xavier, that they reported to Magneto, and Polaris was there to help keep that going, was really great. Polaris had her own new blue team for a while with Daken, which at the time I think Daken was in like everything. He was like the new Wolverine. He was in every book. Jimmy Hudson was on that team, Bloodstorm, Zorn, and they even had Gazing Nightshade, who was from Madripoor. X-Men Blue had a lot of potential too. Now that's being canceled again. I don't know what's happening with Cullen Bunn, but he's on the Deadpool Assassins right now. And I'm gonna miss it a little bit. He did a lot of things right, and two things specifically that I want to point out. He brought us back the young Cyclops and young Jean Grey chemistry, awkwardness, dynamic. They brought this cool process where they were telepathically linked together, and that scene, I remember reading that comic and being like, this is what I was asking for. I just want these relationships to be meaningful again, and to bring back that relationship. The other piece was wrapping up a lot of loose ends. So Cullen Bunn in the Mother Vine series wrapped up a lot of loose ends that happened in the comic universe, and I think that while I'm sad that his run is kind of ending here, he did a good job of wrapping up things that Bendis had plotted in there, that he plotted in there, that others had plotted in there. Specifically Havoc being changed up again. I think we had this back and forth with Emma Frost. I don't think that's over yet. She's trying to reconcile with Magneto. Magneto might be evil again. But overall, there was a lot of plot progress. Those series are endings. Is there a void? A lot of people will say no, and a lot of the reasons why they say no is because of the next book that's happening right now. That is a jumping on point. You can jump on right now and read. They just finished the first arc, but it is Tom Taylor's X-Men Red. X-Men Red, again, played off of the Gold and Blue. I don't think it's going to be called Red for much longer. It made sense because it was led by Jean Grey. This came straight out of the Phoenix Resurrection, and it's an all-star team. You have Jean Grey, you have Nightcrawler, the all-new Wolverine, aka X-23, Laura in Wolverine uniform. You have her sister Gabby, aka Honey Badger, Gentle. Namor's on this team. Gambit was revealed to be on this team, and lately, the latest addition was Storm. So you have heavy hitters that came from X-Men Gold, namely Storm and Nightcrawler. That's a lot to work with. That's a team in itself. That is a flagship team, and a lot of X-Men comic book fan readers have flocked to X-Men Red as their flagship. The challenge with X-Men Red is it only comes out once a month, so it's still a monthly. Will they turn it up to be a bi-weekly so people get more X-Men? I don't know, and I don't know if it should. The quality of it is great the way it is, so it's really challenging to see what they're going to do with it. And we're not done. There's even more X-Men that you can read. I think when X-Men Blue and X-Men Gold came out, there was also, at the time, a limited run. It was going to be only 12 issues of Charles Soule's Astonishing X-Men. So Charles Soule had this great idea for a pitch. he wanted to put the X-Men through this crazy adventure, and it was one of my favorite reads. It featured, of course, my favorite X-Men, Psylocke. You had Rogue, you had Old Man Logan, Gambit, Phantom X, Bishop, Archangel, Mystique, and a new character called X that was recently revealed to be Charles Xavier, now in Phantom X's body. I know, a lot of crazy. The book was awesome from a story perspective. It really launched and was well received. I think it had a lot of hiccups. They had a couple of changing artists that created some inconsistency, and then personally I felt the Proteus kind of part of the Professor X versus the Shadow King piece fell flat a little bit. It was a little rough getting through those issues. But we recently found out that Astonishing X-Men is actually going to continue and be an ongoing, and it's taken over by Matthew Rosenberg, which everyone has loved his X-Men. He understands the X-Men. For a lot of us, we read him in Secret Warriors, then the Phoenix Resurrection. He's been doing a great job on New Mutants limited run, and now he's going to have his ongoing, and it's going to star a great team of Havoc, Beast, this is ongoing Beast, not Young Beast, Colossus, Warpath, and Dazzler. So there's a lot of nostalgia on his team, and they're going to deal with a classic X-Men villain called the Reavers. So a lot of mystery, a lot of fun adventure, and I think that's what the X-Men books are going towards right now. It's just giving fans the X-Men adventures that we haven't seen in a while, or just looking for. Let's talk a little bit about what's next to wrap up this video. Specifically, what's going on when we still have so many other X-Men titles. You have the New Mutants limited series wrapping up here. You have Weapon X by Greg Pak that's still going on, and featuring Sabretooth and Omega Red and Lady Deathstrike. Domino is on that as well. We have the Exiles with Blink in the adventures of her and young cartoon Wolvie. There are tons of solo series. You've got Deadpool. You still have X-23 that was announced and is going on by Mariko Tamaki. You've got Old Man Logan that is still going. Old Man Logan, I don't think he has that much left in him, to be honest. Especially in Weapon X, you see that he's dying, and it's seemingly by natural causes. Who knows? We don't have all the details, but I don't see that version of Logan lasting too much longer, since our Wolverine Logan is coming back. You have Multiple Man limited series. Super excited to see what's going to happen with Jamie Madrox. We haven't seen him forever. Iceman was just renewed, so Cena Grace is coming back and doing Iceman over again. I have mixed feelings about this, because I'm really bummed that Iceman doesn't have his team. It looks like Cena Grace is going back to like Iceman having the solo adventures. I think Kitty's going to play a role in that. I think Bishop was announced as a guest character on that series, and he's going to go on a Morlock rescuing adventure. But I'm bummed. I think that Iceman having his own team and the tease in X-Men Gold with him having his own team was great. It was super cool. There was some potential to explore that more. So I'm bummed that he's not going to have that. Who knows? Maybe he still will. Domino has her limited series as well. That's a lot of X-Men that I just went over, and that could be overwhelming, and that's probably why they're restructuring. So, real quick, who's missing? I don't think Psylocke has been announced yet of what team she's going to be on. Rogue is going to have her ongoing series by Kelly Thompson, one of our favorite writers from the X-Men perspective. She did the Rogue and Gambit series and did so well. I really enjoyed her Hawkeye run too. I'm definitely picking up West Coast Avengers, but she's going to do the ongoing Mr. and Mrs. X with Rogue and Gambit. So that's going to be ongoing. We'll get that every month. We don't know what's going on with Emma Frost though. We don't know where Jubilee and a lot of the Generation X team members are. Polaris, is Polaris going to return? The Gifted is so good, and for Polaris not to be in a book right now feels odd. She's probably going to wrap up in X-Men Blue here, but where's she going after that? I need to know. Bring us more Polaris, please. You have Havoc coming back. I think Polaris should have a team too. And Iceman. So Iceman, I need him on a team book. His solo series is great exploration of his character, or where Sina Grace wants to take his character. But I love Iceman in a group, so I think it's part of Marvel's fresh start that we are gonna get Uncanny X-Men back. The flagship title has to come back in one way, shape, or form, and everyone is pointing that X-Men Red should evolve into that Uncanny X-Men team, and it may make more sense. I think having X-Men Red when X-Men Blue and Gold have been canceled won't make sense anymore. So if you're talking about the Uncanny X-Men, but now that it's Jean's team and Uncanny X-Men, I think that makes sense. We see that Astonishing X-Men's happening. I think that if done correctly, Matthew Rosenberg might have an opportunity to make that kind of like Blue Team 2.0. But I think he's smart with only having a small handful members. I think Astonishing X-Men works best that way, and certainly, with Carl Soule's run, focusing on just those 6 characters or so, helped out a lot. I think Matthew Rosenberg doing the same thing is going to help that out. But I feel like it's not going to be enough still. So you have Astonishing that's going to come out once a month. You have Uncanny that's coming out once a month. What's going to fill in the blanks? Hopefully you pick up Mr. and Mrs. X like I will. Hopefully you'll pick up some of the other X books. The 2 predictions that I'm going to make that I really hope to see is Excalibur limited series. I think that we don't know what's happening with Rachel right now. We definitely know that Kitty's dealing with a lot, and it may be a good idea to do a limited series with Excalibur and just have a mini soap opera in London and take us to a different universe for a little while. I think that's going to be very cool experience to have that. Last but not least, the prediction that I hope comes true and I hope becomes the monthly will be the return of X Factor. X Factor has just a rich history with X-Men fans. It's that, other team, and it's made up of a lot of people. I hope to see, as part of X Factor, that Jamie Madrox is back. I'd love to see some of the New Mutants characters back into X Factor, mainly like Richter, Strong Guy, and bring Boom Boom. I think Boom Boom's a lot of fun. I think having Magic in there might be interesting. But I hope that Polaris lands on that X Factor team in some way, shape, or form. She did okay when she led all new X Factor, so it'd be interesting to see how she would do here. But I think that was just a good run when they were going through X Factor investigations, and I think that there's a place for that too. I'd love to see an X-Men Street team. I'd love to see Psylocke just like living in the city somewhere and being that Marvel Knights type of street team and solving mysteries. That might be a great thing. I hope that comes up, and then your 4th slot for the week is just everything else, right? It's maybe pick up a solo series, and together you'll get 4 books that way. So, it'll be a bummer not having it by, these stories bi-weekly. Maybe one of them will be bi-weekly. What I actually hope is that they don't do bi-weeklies to force stories on us. I really want more limited series. Limited runs are great because you get to bring new artists on board. It's consistent when the artists do all of them, all of the run, and new writers on board that get to tell their stories and their specific stories. I love the limited series run, and X-Men Universe is a great opportunity to do that. I think Matthew Rosenberg did a great job of doing these little limited runs, and Kelly Thompson as well, and let others do the same thing. I think Hunt for Wolverine has been a lot of fun as limited runs. I wish that there weren't so many of them because there's a lot of stories that we have to follow, but they're great. They're good little mini stories. I wish that they would come out more often. I love when the limited series runs are done back to back so that we get one every week or even every other week. Being able to have that, okay, this is a special story and it's going to happen. It's going to come out regularly. That's great for X-Men fans. It's really exciting. There's a lot to speculate on. Please comment below. Tell me what you think is going to happen in the X-Men comics. What comics are you picking up? I'm going to list down below of all the X-Men titles that I'm reading right now. Please tweet at me, at Leon Scorpius. Love to hear more. I really hope you enjoyed this issue and catching up on all things X-Men comics. Tell me what X-Men books that you predict are coming up post Extermination. And don't forget to give us a like and subscribe. I appreciate all of your love and support. Keep nerding out with me, and we will see you next time.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you want to watch more from us, click on one of the thumbnails. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep up to date with our latest shenanigans. Be sure to click the bell for notifications, and check out the description below for a link to our Patreon page. See you next time!